Welcome to the Motivational Midwife. My name's Lynn Jones, and today we have a podcast with the amazing Molly O'Brien of Optimal Birth, talking to us about biomechanics. I hope you enjoy it. Right, so I'd like to say a welcome to Molly O'Brien, who I was probably qualified about 25 years when I did your first biomechanics course, and it totally blew my mind. And I couldn't understand why I hadn't known this stuff 25 years before. So it would be great if you could just explain about biomechanics and the importance of it and how it fits into midwifery.
Well, thank you, Lynn, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Absolutely my favourite subject. And it's, biomechanics is a study of human movement. And here we are, we've got a woman or birthing person having a baby, another small human inside of them passing through a pelvis. That's amazing. Going through a structure that actually moves and has ligaments and connective tissue and muscle and everything running through it and influencing how it moves as well. So I realized that we just don't know enough about that at all. In fact, we barely skim the surface in our training about that part of birth. And of course, it connects up with all the rest of it. Everything's connected. All the systems are connected, but we weren't looking at biomechanics. We weren't looking at how the pelvis behaves and how the mother and baby work together to have this baby pass through the pelvis and the birth canal. So what drew me to that was probably my own experience, because I had a back-to-back baby as my first. And well, back-to-back babies are not necessarily a problem in itself, because some people will always give birth to their babies like that. But we know it can actually be problematic. And for me, it was indeed problematic. I did manage to push him out. He came out face to pubes, but it was really hard. And then I went on to have 2 easier births. And when I realized that the difference in the kind of births from one person, the same person, having babies, how was that? How can that be? How can it be so different? And when I became a midwife after my 3 children were born, and I wanted to make it better, as quite often we do when we've had our own babies and we come into this profession, we actually want to make things a little bit better, and because of our own experiences, and that was part of my a big factor in why I became a midwife. So witnessing women giving birth, I realized there was going to be disruptions that made it difficult. There was going to be a reason why birth became difficult. It wasn't just difficult for nothing. There was going to be something that was causing that. And I came to the conclusion, not very long into my training, into my career as a midwife, was that there was 3 main disruptors. And there's others, but the 3 main ones are fear. And that's why I became a hypnobirthing teacher, because we know that fear is going to influence the neurohormonal balance. And that includes the environment as well. What kind of environment we have that, so that's to disrupt the potentially disrupt the neurohormonal balance. So we could manage that through addressing the environment, addressing the fear in the woman or birthing person by education and birth preparation, as well as what we did in the birth room. The second one was medicalization. Medicalization, of course, disrupts the process because, first of all, you're often you're overriding physiology, and you're then replacing it with artificial oxytocin, for example, but you're also hooking people up to machinery and pumps, and they're on a bed and all that part of it, and there's fear in there too. So there's a lot of disruption through the medicalization. And then the third one I realized was, how is that baby coming through that pelvis? Because if the baby's not coming through the pelvis with ease, relative ease, it's going to be really difficult for a lot of people. And indeed, that is the case. And I thought, wow, no, I can't fight everything. I wanted to fight everything. I wanted to make it better. I didn't want to do everything. I thought, no, you've got to narrow this down a little bit, Molly. Focus on something. What is it you really want to focus on? And in fact, it was biomechanics in the end. But my biomechanics, Lynn, then took me into, it kind of feeds into everything else, you know. And so I was able to feel, you know, it was very cathartic for me to be addressing those issues of, for example, freedom or lack of freedom to mobilize straight away. That has a biomechanical impact, and then addresses the issue of the bed in the room and people not being able to get up and move around freely and their own autonomy and control. So you see how it kind of feeds into all that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what brought me to doing it, to looking at this more deeply.
Yeah, I mean, and I've used your techniques with women who are. I think the light bulb moment for me, I think, was when we were discussing these women that come in early labour, but they are so uncomfortable, and we send them home with a bit of oromorph and not an awful lot else.
Yeah.
And yet the very simple techniques that you teach actually can have quite a profound effect on not only you know, optimizing the fetal position, but the comfort of the woman, because then
totally
it changes everything. And I, you know, I said I've used your techniques quite successfully on a number of occasions. I mean, in fairness, they don't always work for everybody.
No, that's not 100%. Yeah.
But that, you know, in many, many instances, they have made a massive difference to the comfort level that
exactly. And I think, you see, there's the key. It's not about optimizing the baby's position necessarily. I think we have to switch the way we look at this, is that the baby is in that position, potentially is in that position because there is imbalance in the pelvis and the baby can't get into a better position. So that's a result of a biomechanical issue. So once you actually resolve the root cause of the problem, which might be an imbalance in the pelvis through maybe an accident or an injury, I mean, just falling on your bum, you know, on the ice and really cracking, you know, your sacrum and your coccyx getting a real whack, can actually put that a little bit out of kilter. And then there's all the ligaments that are attached to that piece of the structure of the pelvis that holds is then attached to the internal organs, the uterus, and holds it in an optimal position. Now, if the pelvis is out of kilter, those ligaments are going to be a little bit out of kilter, which means that the uterus may also be a little out of kilter.
And I don't think
can't get that position.
I don't think as students that we actually really appreciate the ligaments.
No, we don't.
I think, you know, we get very excited about the pelvic and the bony bits, but I think we get less excited about the ligaments. We kind of know they're there, but I don't think and I definitely hold my hand up to this. I don't think before I did your course, I truly appreciated actually just how important those ligaments are, and also how historic the injury could have been.
Exactly.
To have put something out of kilter, and just even a tiny bit out of kilter. It
can make a difference.
Can make a
to
huge
that
difference.
person. And other people might not, and they might have, some people will have injuries and it won't have, they will still manage to have their baby, so that's fine. But for those, it doesn't really matter. If they're having an issue, there will have been something that's caused it. And you know what, Lynn? The biggest one, sedentary lifestyle.
Yep, definitely.
Sitting too much. We are not made to be sitting this long. And we do, and we sit a long time in the pandemic.
And COVID has impacted on that greatly.
Totally.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I do wonder. I mean, I know that a lot of intervention has been massively increased rate in intervention. Now, there's going to be variables, lots of varying reasons for that. But I do wonder if it's also because people have not been getting out and moving.
Yeah.
And it's caused them problems. But then we've got other things going on there. We've got fear is in there too, and the way the hospitals have responded to it, and the medical staff have responded to it as well, and what they say and what they do. So there's a lot of variables, but I think it will. I do believe it will have had an impact, sitting a lot and not getting any movement.
I mean, I as I say, I'm a huge advocate of your courses.
I know, thank you.
Having an advanced one, which I can also recommend. Oh, I've got a little message just pop up on my screen there for some reason. It's better. But if somebody, because I know now you offer them both online and face-to-face.
Well, right now I'm not doing face-to-face because I'm in France. And that's where I live. I live in France, which has been great, because this is the upside of actually the pandemic for me, was that I put it all online. So, and that's worked really, really well. Actually, Lynn, it's worked.
I was surprised
better,
how, having done the first class face-to-face, and then the advanced class, of course, was an online format. I was quite surprised at how well it did work. Yeah. And for me, the joy was actually networking with midwives across the world.
Exactly.
And birth workers across the world, not just across the UK, because if I remember, we had a midwife from Croatia, we had a lecturer from Iran. And when you then start hearing the environments that they are trying to support birth in, we think, actually, we're not that bad in the UK.
Yeah, I know. It's so true, isn't it? Saudi Arabia, Kuwait.
It was very eye-opening, really.
Yes, and even places like, I mean, there was a discussion. I had a chat with one, and I don't know, she might have been in the course that you did, I'm not sure. She's from Canada, nurse from Canada, nurse midwife from Canada. And she contacted me after the course to have a quick chat, because when I teach the positions that the biomechanical techniques and positions that will open up and make a little tiny bit more space for a while, and that's all you need when you're having a baby in the birth room. You don't need a long time. We're not sorting out a long time problem. We're just making a little bit more space for that moment, or an hour or so. And I say, well, you could consider these to be interventions. So let's not start interfering too much. Let only use them when you really believe that this person's having a mechanical labor dystocia. Only use them if you strongly suspect that's happening, because we don't want to start doing things that are just because we can.
Yes,
we don't want to replace that paradigm of, well, we'll just do it just in case, because then that puts in this notion of we're not quite trusting in the process. So we had to be careful how we do that. Now, so I said that in the course, and she got back to me and said, Molly, can we have a chat about that? And we did. Later we got onto Zoom, and she said, look, I do this on everybody. Every woman who comes by me in the hospital, I just sideline release and I do this, and they feel so much better when I've done it. And I said, oh really? I said, well, that's interesting, but why do you feel that you need to do that on everybody? And she said, because everybody has intervention.
Oh,
I was like, oh, exactly. I said, oh, I see. Oh well, and that optimizes their chances of having a straightforward birth. And I thought, you know what, that's actually a very good reason why you might want to do the positions and techniques on top of identifying levodostosia, you might want to use them when somebody is going down that medicalized route. So you're making sure that everything is in an optimal position. And when I say optimal position, I mean your pelvis is working well. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And now I say that if somebody's maybe going to be induced, for example, in fact, I'd like to see these techniques used in an antenatal ward while people are waiting for induction. Yeah,
I would agree. I think there's definitely we'll have a discussion outside of this little podcast on that.
Yeah, on that. Yeah. But you know, so yeah, I mean, they're really, like, you know, they're very simple. It's just the ultimate. I have to say that actually the ultimate solution, and I will always stick with this because it's absolutely at the heart of our care as midwives, is the woman or birthing person doing it themselves. Having the freedom to choose your own birth position, freedom to mobilize and to move instinctively is so important, because we do see that, don't we, Lynn, when we see women moving in the birth room. Sometimes they stretch the leg out a wee bit and just lift it up and move a certain way, and that actually maybe is just what they need to do at that moment in time to release maybe some blockage or some tension, where the baby now can come down and rotate and be born. So that's
very
ultimate.
Similar when you look at women physiologically birthing breech babies in the upright position. They instinctively will go into a running lunge position to free the baby and bring it around. And
exactly.
I think we've kind of lost the ability to trust women and trust their bodies.
There you are. Absolutely. And of course, Lynn, we were talking earlier about this, and what it really comes down to is the midwifery skill of watchful attendance. And if we actually watchfully attend to women and birthing people, then we will see that, and we'll be able to witness how it unfolds. Whereas now we don't do that. We don't do it because our work has been overridden by medicalization. And so we are attending them because we're actually looking after the medicalization part of the birth. That's what we're doing. They're on the bed, they're on a CTG, they've got pumps going. You might actually have one or two people that you're looking after, and you're diving in and out, and you're not watchfully attending anybody. So therefore you can't witness it unfold. But when you do see it unfold in a medicalized way, because she's attached to monitor, she's on the bed, she's not moving instinctively, she's got artificial oxytocin or whatever, you are seeing a different kind of birth unfold.
Yeah.
And then that's all we see. Then we think that's normal. That's what we have. This is physiological birth, but it's not.
When you see a physiological birth, it is totally amazing.
Absolutely. And of course, there's a spectrum of that. There's variations because everybody's unique, but it's actually being able to recognize that within that spectrum. And when it comes away from that, then it becomes, what is difficult birth? What does that actually mean? How do you know it's difficult? And these are the subtle things that this is our profession, and this is what we do as midwives. And I think it's an art and a skill. And I think that's why a lot of midwives are leaving, because they cannot do that. They haven't, there's not the capacity in the hospital for that work, and therefore midwives, I'm going to say that I do feel that they're becoming defunct. Our work is becoming defunct because it's medicalized. So we can't watch and witness birth unfold physiologically, and if we can't do that, then how can we recognize when there's an issue?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, have we, Lynn, I mean, I think, but I wonder what you think too, have we normalized abnormal? Have we normalized agonizing birth?
I think we have, to be fair, because, you know, women expect to come in and they expect to be put on monitors, and they expect to be tied to beds. They expect to have pain relief. So they're
because they expect it to be traumatic, because they're being told that, and that's the stories they're hearing, and so you're quite right, and so they're opting maybe to, well, I'm going to have an epidural so I can numb all that out. So yes, so this is a very dangerous path to be going down, and so on two counts. One is that for people who do want to have a birth that is undisturbed, the chances of that are diminishing because they take away, because home birth is diminishing. We have got home birth teams, so hopefully in some areas that's going to be still supported. But we do know that that's one of the first things to go, isn't it? When everything's tight, yes. It's like, oh well, you have to come in from your home birth team.
We could. That's a whole other discussion, isn't it?
And that's a whole other. Well, yes, well it is a whole other discussion. But again, it feeds into the mechanics because people who actually are at home and are in birth units have more chance of choosing their own birth position.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
being moving instinctively.
It was many years ago. I read some research around it's the midwife that chooses the position.
Yes. Well, 83%.
I've seen that. I've seen
totally.
That.
And
CQC
are
extraordinarily influential in the position a woman gets into. She has to be quite strong, and I think we forget how vulnerable women are when they're labouring. And
I mean, CQC in 2019 exactly suggestible as well. 83% were giving birth in a semi-recumbent supine position on the bed. Now that was not instinctively chosen by those people. That, like you say, very suggestible. It might be sort of a recommendation by the midwife, or they're attached to things and they can't move. So that's
but even then, as I say, we don't utilize the beds we have to exactly. The delivery beds will go into chair positions. They are adaptable, and we choose for whatever reason not to do that.
Exactly. Maybe because we don't understand the mechanics of it. We don't understand the importance of actually having free sacrum positions. So your sacrum can move and your pelvis can open a little, and you have the you can move your femurs, and that will influence the pelvic capacity as well. That's why, as I say, going back to home births and birth centre births, you're more likely to have that because people will choose their instinctive position. Now, with instinctive position is very often, as we see in those environments, is upright, on all fours, leaning forward. But it's not, again, we shouldn't prescribe that. That's going to be, we recognise that as a common position that's used because it uses gravity and it opens up the pelvis.
But as you say, it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
No.
It's some people we will see, I can't be like this, I've got to be like lying flat, and they will chuck themselves around, lie flat, and it'll be right for them because their baby's coming through their pelvis. And they can feel that, and they know that that's where they need to be, lying flat. For that moment, their baby will come. So this is something that we can watch with wonder and admiration about how the birthing body works. We can witness that, but instead it seems like we've got an environment and a culture where we want to control it, and I think that's makes birth very difficult. Again, that's part of the medicalization, is where we want to be in charge of it rather than the woman or the birthing person being in charge of themselves.
Definitely.
And so I and some of the, for me, that's the ultimate, is that really freedom to move and to, but then you've got the other factor in people being confident enough and trusting enough in their own body to be able to choose positions. Because a lot of people are not, they're worried about it.
And I know you also run these courses for parents as well.
Yes, I do.
Because I know my own daughter, my youngest daughter also used yours, and she did use the techniques within her. She chose to have a home water birth for her first baby, and had quite a long latent phase, but she used the techniques, many of the techniques you showed them. And went on to have a lovely water birth with no analgesia.
Lovely.
First
baby. Was that her first baby, Lynn?
First baby, yeah.
Nice. Lovely.
She did amazing. And she did afterwards when I spoke to her about it, because I, like you, I'm a hypnobirth teacher. And so I had taught her the hypnobirthing as well. And when we spoke afterwards, I said, how do you feel that those did the hypnobirthing and the biomechanic techniques help? And she was felt very strongly that actually all of it helped her be stronger in her choices.
Yeah.
You know, and be able to say, actually, no, this is what I want. This is, she also chose not to have vaginal examinations, which did throw the midwives that came to look after her somewhat. But
again, that's something that we need to really put that in perspective. Why are we so, first of all, cervix-centric, as Rachel Reed puts it in her blogs, but also why are we so dependent on an unreliable examination?
Unreliable.
It's I know. It really
unreliable.
is. And if people had to realize how unreliable, they'd be quite shocked. I mean, it's as low, one study was as low as 19% for dilatation, reliability on dilatation. 19, that's 19.
So there are far more useful information that you can
exactly.
gain from a vaginal examination and dilatation.
And Lynn, I can tell, and this is what you can do. And again, it's about understanding physiology and mechanics and the body and how it works, and also applying it to real life, what's happening, by asking the right questions and then understanding the answers. So I can tell when somebody has a mechanical issue on the telephone by asking those questions, you know, and that's what we need to do. We can actually get so much information without even touching anyone, just by being there, witnessing them, talking to them,
watching.
or watching. And that's the skill that we can do. I mean, you mentioned, I think, well, we were talking earlier, and perhaps you mentioned it since you've been recording, but one difficult scenario that we see from time to time, it's not unusual, is for somebody to come in, think they're in labour, believe themselves to be in labour, and so does the midwife, until she examines them and finds that they're 2 centimetres. And then that's difficult. It's like, what do you do then? Because they're not deemed to be in labour. Now, somebody who's actually struggling at that point at 2 centimetres with pain, really, you know, struggling with pain, and they may well have a mechanical issue going on there that's causing that. Because why should they be having such extreme pain? Now, it could be their perception of pain, and that's due to fear. So obviously we have to consider that too, and we would need more information. And this is what the course teaches you, is to think about what else, where is the pain? Where is the pain? How is she expressed? How is she feeling? What's her, you know, is she getting exhausted? Is this a long latent phase that's really getting her, she's becoming exhausted, and it's still early on. And that's something that's not right. That's not right. And we shouldn't accept that as being normal. It's not normal. It's something up, and we need to know what is up, what's going on with her. Why is she feeling like this? Why is she getting so exhausted at this point in time?
Yep. Well, Molly, it's been an absolute pleasure, as always. I will put the links for your website in the comments box underneath. So if anybody wants to get in touch for more information or see when the course dates are, and again, anyone that is watching, please do Molly's course, because it is, and also the parents' courses, do widely distribute them, because you will often see them come up on Facebook, and certainly if you're part of my Facebook page, I will always share them on there. So
and of course I do come to universities and hospitals, well, not come, I do online, and eventually I will, when things have settled a bit, I'll do face-to-face. But that's probably easier if people want to attend the courses, get their hospitals to put them on, because I'm all full up for the moment. It's all full up, but we can put in sort of, if hospitals arrange their own courses, then we can do that. It's more easy. But yes, thank you, Lynn.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
And there you have it. Biomechanics. I hope you found that useful. I can thoroughly recommend Molly's courses, be they online or face-to-face. So please, if you get a chance, I would highly encourage you to sign up for one. They're worth every penny. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. and look for us on our Facebook page, The Motivational Midwife, and I look forward to seeing you next time.